Hello and welcome to GatherVerse Youth Summit Day 4, Week 2, and what an amazing few weeks it has been so far. And I'm joined with an amazing roundtable panelists here. So thank you to each and every one of you for joining us today. And on this roundtable discussion, we're going to talk about children of the Metaverse. So very excited to be talking about this. Paige, good to see you again. Louise, Brandon as well. Tiff, Tess, thank you for all joining us. What we're going to do is we're going to do just a quick 30-second introduction from each of yourselves. We'll then get into the questions. And I will hand the microphone to Louise, who's this side of me right here. So we'll start with yourself, Louise. Please introduce yourself and welcome to GatherVerse Youth Summit.
Hi, great to be here. Hi, everyone. So my name's Louise Edwards, and I am a high school science teacher turned virtual reality developer focused on kind of the educational VR. And with my creative partner, Tiff, we translate expedition experiences, particularly in oceans and polar areas, into VR experiences to bring people closer to our planet.
I think it's amazing what you do, Louise. Obviously, this is the second or third time meeting you now, so thank you for joining us once again, and love what you're doing as well, Louise. Paige, please introduce yourself, and great to see you again as well, Paige.
Thank you, Russell. It's great to be here amongst good friends and new friends. And I am the founding director of Better World Museum. It's a multi-platform and in real life initiative to empower people using creative technology.
Sorry to jump in, Paige, but you seem to have frozen. So you might want to go out. If you go out and then just come back. Oh wait, no, you're back. You're back. Wait. It looks like we're having latency issues here. I'll tell you what, I'll go to Brandon and I'll come back to you. Brandon, please introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Brandon. I'm the co-founder of Spatial Grow. We're based out of Memphis. I'm an educator and technologist, and so my main area of expertise is AR and VR. And a lot of what we do is just build experiences, mainly around ag and sustainability, just allowing the students to have a space where they can make mistakes and learn new things. And so when they actually do work with plants and fish and all these things, they at least feel experienced by the time they get to that point. And so we have a classroom platform and just a few tools for both the students and the teachers to sort of make all that easy.
That's fantastic, and thank you for joining us, Brandon. And Paige, shall we try again? Please introduce yourself. Let's start again.
I'm hoping this works. Good to be amongst good friends and new friends. I'm Paige Dansinger, founding director of Better World Museum, Horizon Art Museum, Women in Horizon. I'm on the leadership of XR Women. And right now, my passion is Coral Collective, a collaborative community initiative to teach women and diverse people and young people, teens, world building using AI tools by creating a coral reef.
That's amazing. Yes, fantastic, Paige, without latency as well. So amazing. And thank you for joining us, Paige. Right. Tiff, please introduce yourself and welcome. And it's great to have you with us for GatherVerse Youth Summit 2025.
Thanks, Russell. Thanks, everyone. As Lou mentioned, I am Tiff. I co-founded Three Otters Media with her, and we make video games like the one behind me with orcas so that people can experience the oceans and our planet in a way that is otherwise inaccessible, right? That's why we're leveraging these technologies and these different mediums. My specialty is kind of everything except the tech. I'm the analog story side, and I have personal experiences where the ocean, caused me to leave a really unhappy life as a lawyer and just go all in on a, happy blue career. And so I try to create those same connections for people who might use our experiences through headsets and through different media so that they too can have that without having to necessarily, explode their lives too.
Oh, thank you for joining us, Tiff. Really appreciate you being with us and co-founders with Louise. Now, Tess, please introduce yourself.
Hi, yeah, I'm Tess McKinney, and I run a company called X Renegades. What we do is we go in and we help K-12 and colleges and universities implement their XR labs. We do a lot of outreach with K-12 education and making sure that kids have the opportunity to have these kinds of technologies in their hands. After we do a lot of setups of headsets, and after 25, we donate a headset back to a school, K-12 only right now, but hopefully that changes the way that kids can get access to all these wonderful applications that the rest of these people do.
Absolutely.
And so I'm super excited to be here. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us, Tess. And quick introduction for myself. My name's Russell. I am the co-founder and chief visionary I keep getting that word mixed up. Chief Visionary Officer at Just Verify. And basically we are building the AI trust layer for AI and humanity, basically. And I'm also the director of partnerships at GatherVerse, where I handle all the partnership side for GatherVerse and all the summits that we do and all the events that we have. So on that note, now let's get into these amazing questions that we have. So the first question is as follows. What role should parents and educators play in guiding children's digital footprints in virtual spaces? Very interesting question. And I think we'll start with you, Paige, because you're very eager to get involved. So I'm only joking. But no, please, yeah, we'll hand over to you and then we'll go over to Louise after as well.
Right. Well, what role should parents and educators play in guiding children's digital footprints in virtual spaces? I would say provide a positive and collaborative space to do that.
Okay.
Having tools is one thing, but also the encouragement. For instance, I just watched this awesome video of a woman and her tween daughter who build worlds together in Horizon Worlds. They've not only
it seems like you're having latency again. Louise, please, what are your thoughts on this question?
Yeah, well, I think it needs to go both ways. I think parents, educators, and all kind of involved adults really need to be involved, as well as the youth, because like we're all kind of on this frontier together. Like none of us really understand what safety looks like and what the power is of these. They're all happening at the same time. I mean, certainly in the classroom, like there's so much in terms of digital safety that people are trying to get into classrooms is really difficult, very changes with the jurisdiction. And most teachers, like we don't really know what's happening, and most parents don't really know what's happening.
That's true.
So, and I think as Paige was starting to say, this collaborative approach, not ignoring it, not trying to tell the kids that we know better than them either. Like, just it has to be this conversation, and that's brought into every aspect of our kids and adults' lives, because it's new for all of us. So, like as Paige was saying, like bringing these technologies into the classroom, but making sure that we're recognizing the possible risks and responding to them, and helping and helping people kind of navigate these really complex spaces. So, in short, parents and educators have to play a huge role, because they're the adults that spend all the time with kids.
That's true.
And kids are experimenting and exploring, and they're the people who are going to be trying these things out for new, but they don't necessarily have some of those critical thinking skills to make those decisions and those judgments for themselves. Whereas the adults may have more of those cognitive powers, but they're not experimental in the same way. Typically, they're not going out and pushing these boundaries, pushing the envelopes of how these spaces are used. So having these places where kids are never going to invite us into their kids spaces, but and nor should we expect them to, but having places which are actually designed for that multi-generational experience, I think is really going to be critical.
No, I agree. Honestly, I really agree in terms of, we should be providing children with, VR headsets and, with the glasses and where the future is going, and including with AI as well. I mean, we spoke about that in the first roundtable, right? In terms of we were speaking about what is safety within AI, right? No one could really answer it completely fully, but the point on what you're getting at is we need to educate children, even with the AI side, but also from the VR and the virtual space aspect, because this is the future that they're going to be living in. They're going to be walking around with glasses that the likes of Meta are going to create or have, and you're going to be walking around with them everywhere you go, from AR, VR, and also XR. So I completely agree with what you're saying, Louise, and it has to start from the place which is most safe, which is schools, education, and home. So I completely agree with you in terms of that aspect. Completely. Tess, what are your thoughts on this as well? Please share your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I think it while there's great education, or all of us on this call have great education because we've been in this space or whatever. I think it's very beneficial for parents and educators to listen to the experts. There's a reason we're interested in this stuff, and like for the experts to have those guides for those parents. It's a tool, definitely, and kids are going to go and look at it no matter if we regulate it or we don't. And so, the experts that we all are, my advice for any parent out there is to go and find those experts, and they may not be at your schools, they might be only at your universities, but there are a lot of people in our space who have those kind of guidelines. It is definitely the Wild West out there. I mean, sometimes I'm like sitting in VR and I'm like golfing, and there's like a 10-year-old standing there right next to me. So it needs to be like a safe space. And like, even if you're a gamer and you're in this space, maybe realize that there are little kids in this space as well. So maybe just having, being a better person and knowing that there are maybe not age appropriate kids in the space that you're in. So just being, I guess, respectful and that kind of thing, and, guiding those kids. I do have like a software that does a lot of like psychology and that kind of thing within VR. And so they're kind of prepped. They have kind of guidelines or whatever that they understand, that they're in a safe space. And there are specific rooms. I do like the what Paige said about having a parent and or a guardian or an educator who build rooms with the students,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of having that conversation of understanding, hey, you are in like an internet chat room. I mean, like, I remember being a kid and being having an internet chat room and like not knowing I mean, there weren't rules, and there really aren't again with this. So it's just, having that conversation with your kids, just like you would if it's stranger danger, kind of thing or whatever. It's the same in the virtual world as it is in the real world. So
Would you just a quick side question, like, for example, we were taught like how to cycle and the safety of cycling and stuff like that, so very similar to that kind of sort of concept.
yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. It's just like social media danger, having that conversation with your kids. I don't have kids, but I have that conversation with my niece and nephew all the time. Make sure that you're safe online. Make sure you don't give out information, or you don't say, oh, I went to X military or, elementary school, or, those kinds of things, and not just like password safety, that kind of thing. Just still applies here, and it applies. I think people really don't think about it like that. They're like, oh, I'm at home, but I'm online, no one can see where I am. Well, lots of people can. So just kind of having that conversation with your children is great.
Yeah, no, I honestly I 100% agree with that, and thank you for sharing that. And Paige, welcome back as well. We're gonna go on to the next question now, which is how can metaverse platforms offer children safer, more community-driven digital spaces? So we'll head over to Tiff, and then we'll go to you after Paige, and then Brandon, we'll be heading over to you on our next question. So Tiff, what are your thoughts, obviously, on this question?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's very much a continuation of the discussion we're having, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people think that adults make it safer. And while we want that to be true, that doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Like I think of a community maybe like the LGBT community, right? Like maybe there's a kid who needs to find community digitally because he or she or they don't have one physically, and that is going to maybe be saving for them, but maybe that's incompatible with the adults in their life. And so what is safe for them is going to be different in the eyes of who's answering the question, right? And I think it's complex. I don't think it's that simple. And it also, of course, is age, it's linked with age and different things. I know that Lou and I have done a couple different showcases for kids of various ages and students of various ages in person. And I think platforms where everyone's trying it out together feels like it's a pretty safe space and open, especially if it's, like we talk about the oceans and like wonder and awe. So it's generally pretty safe to approach, but there are for sure spaces that aren't. So I don't really have a great answer for you because I think it's a really complex question.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's no right or wrong answer, right?
Yeah.
It's just kind of like what your lens is and what your point of view is. And maybe one point, kind of add to your point where, having similar age groups in, certain rooms and stuff like that, that's a fantastic idea. So it's kind of like, okay, secondary school, well, I'm talking about the UK here, so I'm not talking about the US, but secondary school here in the UK, right, which would be sort of ages, 12 to 16, maybe. That's $1 group. You guys can go to that room, and then 12 to, let's say, 7 can be another room, and then 7 to younger could be another room, right? So I think that's a fantastic idea, because then that way, then you can create that safe environment where it's all similar ages. You're not having just random adults coming in, and then again, that could be a safe way in being able to do that and having a more community-driven space, for example.
Yeah, and I think you could also have like mentors that might not be the adults in each kid's actual space, but mentors who understand the digital realm and whatever topical thing is in the space to help guide it, right? Yeah. Like if I was in a BIPOC community chat, I would want a BIPOC adult to be talking to me.
Exactly. I'm Paige. Like I said, welcome back, and it's good that you're not having any more latency issues, which is fantastic. So please share us what your opinion is on this. How can Metaverse platforms offer children safer and more community-driven digital spaces? I mean, me and Tiff were talking that. So, what are your thoughts?
Sure. Actually, I really want to build off of Tiff. She had some wonderful points in talking about age stratification, and that could really happen easily through a back end, right? So where you're able to like just toggle your age preferences, and your instance would be filtered in that way. Another way that platforms could really help is I've always admired platforms that include sort of like maker camps or maker boot camps for young people, so that young people who are leaders today are immediately channeled into being creators rather than consumers. And then young people will be creating the worlds that they want to see and frankly deserve. So, and that their voices are heard. I think that that educators have a wonderful opportunity right now to uplift young people by developing leadership roles in which young people are actually facilitating those boot camps. So again, that goes back to what Tiff was saying about that peer learning or peer mentorship. Every moment, truly every moment in the metaverse is an opportunity for a mentoring experience, whether it's through an independent or individually played game or a group that is learning and building and creating together. So
interesting.
Maximizing these moments, these opportunities through creative gameplay, through that education entertainment, through facilitating young people's voices who are already leaders today.
Brandon, I kind of want to pass this question to yourself as well, and thank you for sharing that page. I want to kind of ask you a bit of a side question here, kind of a bit of questions of the main questions, which is, you know, we're creating these fantastic safe spaces for children and for younger generations, etc. But where does AI play within all this? Like, how does the creativity aspect, you know, from that creativity side, how does AI play within that?
I think currently it's sort of demonized in schools. You have split decisions on teachers really loving it or teachers really hating it. And I think eventually it'll sort of turn more towards students will be able to create their own learning pathways. And it won't be what can I learn? It'll be how do I want to learn it? And we'll be able to create these worlds in a sense where it's like, if I do want to go to the moon and learn about what the dark side of the moon looks like, or whatever it might be, or what Mars looks like, I can literally just create a course the moment I get to class and be able to generate this entire world for me. And then the next day I come into class, I could be learning about any of the other planets or any other galaxy. And so the ability for students to get excited about school is sort of what AI opens up, because teachers don't have to be 100 different things at once. They can be facilitators on how to use these tools for students and sort of let them dictate their learnings. Of course, with you know, a sandbox, if you will. So there's still boundaries and stuff. But
sure,
you know, the moment you deal with students, they're going to break any kind of boundary you really have and sort of figure out what's behind that. And that's where real learning gets into it. And so I don't really know where that takes us, but AI is going to let us the magnitude of that with AI is just going to, you know, be huge. And so that's sort of where I see all that.
No, I appreciate you answering that side question. Like I said, it's not one of the main questions that we have, but I think it was important to cover, right? Because I mean, AI is changing the experiences and everything, which, you know, we all have, including for younger generations. So, you know, it's like how you said, there's a safe way in which that can be done, aka like how you say in the sandbox, and then also at the same time, you know, we don't want it to be sort of freely open, so to speak, and because obviously if that could happen, then that can have ramifications for the younger generations potentially. So let's go on to sort of like let's switch it, you know, gears a little bit now and go into the next topic, which is how do we protect children from algorithmic manipulation in metaverse advertising and content? So we'll be heading over to Louise on this question, and then you also, Tess, and then Tiff will be heading over to you on the next question. And also, just before we get into Louise quickly, Dr. Daniel, who was on our previously fireside chat, she says, "What a great virtual conference! What an interesting panel." So thank you for watching us, Dr. Daniel. I just want to give a quick shout out to Dr. Daniel there. So, Louise, please share your thoughts on this question.
How do we protect anyone? Like, I mean, it's like, it's not just
Exactly.
children. Like, we are, again, it comes back to that, what I was saying with the other one. Like, we are all, everything's changing so fast. We are all fairly ill-equipped to kind of deal with a lot of this stuff, which is a shame, because it's really hard to, because we're still in that transition stage as educators, and I'm not a parent, so I can't speak to it from a parental perspective, but we are kind of trying to transition from that stage on the stage to this more kind of collaborative approach to learning, and for a lot of reasons, because like the world changes at such a rate. Like we don't have this kind of static stuff that, you know, we can say as we get older, we have this expertise that we're going to kind of translate to the younger generations. That's not true anymore. Like we are like all facing this together, and we have different generations have different tools to manage that. And I think protecting, I think it's really hard, apart from like the only thing I can see in that, the only path through is not even thinking about it so much in terms of the specifics, but these really basic tools to deal with a changing and uncertain world. So how do we respond to any new information? Like, how do we look for sources of evidence and and validity. Like, what are the, it's like going back to old school history class when someone was like, this is how you analyze a source to tell a story. Like,
Yeah,
those
that's true.
skills are so super important and applicable to all of this. And I think we can use digital environments, virtual environments, and certainly video games and these tools to really start asking these questions and using these as examples. But I think as a general thing, it's more of a question of how do we prepare our children, and as adults, how do we learn how to manage this world of change and uncertainty and still make good choices within it. Like, I think that we have to kind of, because everything's so crazy, we have to abstract the problem a little bit in the answer and really think about like how we deal with new and unfamiliar things.
Let me sorry, I just have a follow-up question on that. I mean, I kind of want to take a slightly different approach. Let's look at social media, for example, right? Social media has its own algorithms, right, so to speak. It's very similar. Like, we don't really completely understand social media either, right? No. And that's the thing. So if we can't even get social media right, how are we going to do this for the metaverse, right?
But and that's why I say, like, these are the same problems. It's just because, and with the application of it is changing. Like it's social media. It's the same thing. Like, we're bombarded by this information that is not curated in the same way that we're used to information being curated. And so the ways that we question it is different. And those are the same issues we're dealing with in the metaverse. And we still haven't quite worked out how to kind of ask ourselves those fundamental questions, or we've forgotten, I don't know, but we need to start thinking about it in it's not just a metaverse problem. It's not just a social media problem. It's not just a something else problem that we're dealing with, like politics problem. Like, we're still going to get stuck in our echo chambers. We're going to still get like have these same issues. So it's about how we think about everything has to kind of evolve so we can apply it generally to all of these things that we can't predict. We can't predict what's going to happen in 2 years and the kind of problems we're going to have to deal with. So how do we get this kind of VUCA approach to things that I can't remember what the VUCA is. There's the something uncertainty, CA, like, but anyway, like, everything's chaotic. So how do we? No,
I completely agree with you, Louise, and thank you for following up on that question, of also answering it. But I do agree, and that's the thing, is if we can't even get social media right, I mean, how are we going to get all the other stuff right? And I mean, and then you've also got AI and adding all that on top, and then let's say is AI going to be able to keep AI in check? And we've got all these different questions, and it's like we have more questions than answers. How you're saying, Louise, right?
In a more optimistic take on it, though, I think if we do get a handle of one of those, it will be a blueprint we can follow to get a handle on other things going forward.
All right, so we'll end on that night. Tess, over to you. What are your thoughts on this question? And then Tiff and Paige will head you over to you guys next on the next question. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So I agree with Louise. It's very hard to put a label. Like, we really need, like, I remember when I was a kid and there were like content labels on video games, and like you'd have a parent buy a video game because it was 16 plus, and we have guidelines on movies, and we have guidelines on television, and it took years for that to be figured out or whatever. And while she's right, we don't have years because it's ever changing so fast that you can't do that. I think some companies are doing really well on age appropriate limits, but how kids are, they find the ways around it, and they find they put in their birthday as 1980 when they were born in like 2015 or whatever. And so
I think we've all done that.
Yeah, I mean, like, we make things up because we get around it, but like, we're I think there's a lot of policy holders and a lot of people in this space who are kind of having that like nutritional label or different labels for different applications. At least it's a guiding like barrier for some. I know they're on like certain rooms, like I've played like some poker games before in VR, and then kids are in there and you're like, no, you shouldn't be in here, you know, that kind of thing or whatever. And so even with like Rocket League, I know there are kids in there and they have their mics on and I'm like, turn off your mics, please. But it's just having those kinds of, and companies really need to focus on that. They need to like shut off the mics, don't have mics on games, you know, and those kinds of experiences. But we have to make sure that, you know, we're protecting children in those instances. So maybe it's you have to have, you know, a login. I know we all hate logins or whatever, but we have to have a login with, you know, verifying that you are an adult in order to get into that actual chat room kind of thing. I know that's kind of a free reign space, but we're mixing adults and kids in a lot of spaces for like the metaverse. And so, you know, as an adult, if you're an adult and you're in the metaverse, just be very cognizant of who's listening. That's probably my biggest thing for a recommendation is there are kids in there, probably whether you like it or not. Just be very cognizant on who's listening because small ears hear lots of things and then it kind of continues. But Louise is right. We do not, I mean, like, it is the wild, wild west for social media, the internet. We didn't really have like protocols around the internet for a long period of time. And the technology between AI and VR and the metaverse is moving so fast, lightning fast, that we can't make these policies. We probably should have started with the policies, but you know how technology is. It doesn't work like that. So
Yep.
we just need
Innovation
to
comes
take
first.
a page from the past and like speed it up a little bit. But like educators, I have educators that have rules for their classrooms with the VR. You know, having a management software I think is beneficial, especially in the education. I have parents who have management software so that they can regulate what their kids are seeing in those headsets. So just be aware of kind of like the space you're in and maybe have that management software. It definitely helps kind of lock those headsets down. So
No, I mean, like I said, I agree, and I think honestly, you know, one missing layer and something that we're working on at Just Verify, is, you know, we're creating the trust layer, right? Being able to sort of verify different models, etc. And you know, is it safe to be used by children or not? For example, obviously, it's generally for humanity as a whole, of course, and you know, we're focused on the human value aspect in terms of, you know, for yourself, you know, does it hallucinate? What's the behavior of the model? Is it good? Is it not good, etc.? These are all things that we're doing. So I think from a children's aspect, you know, this would be, you know, something that we're working on. Just Verify would be a great tool in which, you know, can be used, you know, for protecting children and the younger generations when it comes to the AI aspect, at least, and even potentially AI inside the metaverse. So thank you very much for sharing that, Tess. We are running out of time slowly, but obviously we've got a bunch more questions to get through. So Tiff, Brandon, let's bring you on. Tiff and Paige, let's bring you into the next question. And Brandon, we'll head over to you next, which is what measures can ensure that children. What measures can ensure that children from marginalized communities have equal access to metaverse opportunities? So Tiff, we'll head over to you next. And also, big hello to Majitsu as well. He's this very interesting discussion. Well done to you guys. Thank you very much for the kind comment there, Majitsu. So, Tiff, let's have it over to you.
Sure. I don't think we can ensure equal access, right? That's the whole, the world is not equal, it's not fair, and it sucks. But what we can do is acknowledge that and build that into our plans and our development schemes and our funding, and directly look for schemes like that. So like Lou and I work with a nonprofit that focuses on women and girls in STEM, and particularly women and girls who might not be scientists, but we're trying to build ocean literacy and STEM literacy through VR because they might not be able to pay to get that, you know, whatever coral reef experience in life. So maybe they jump into Paige's, you know, world that she's building, and they can still learn and they can still connect. And maybe when they get up to, you know, high school or university, they won't be at such a disadvantage. So I think we have to recognize where the lack is and build that in very meaningfully and intentionally as we create these worlds and as we create the physical opportunities that provide access. So Like, I'm going to Honduras in 2 weeks, and we're bringing 360, and we're going to do a quick edit, and we're going to show the local school kids what their underwater world looks like, because it's their backyard and they have never stuck their face down, because they don't even have a physical mask, let alone a headset, right? Those are those access challenges, but also opportunities that we can build in if we're mindful about them.
That's a very interesting prospect you bring up there, and I think making things more accessible in general will be beneficial, regardless who you are or what age you are in terms of the younger generation side of things. So, completely agree with you there, Tiff. And Paige, do you agree as well?
Certainly, I think that when one or an entity like Louise and Tiff's ocean endeavors are venturing into diverse communities, I think that it can only be a win-win. I have done some work similarly. We took a VR garden to 10 international cities, and within those communities worked with young people to participate in creating a drawing in the VR garden. That goes a little bit back to Dr. Davis's talk on connecting through empathy, right? When we're co-creating, whether it's a coral reef or learning about ocean, we're really learning about empathy for each other and of our natural world, as well as the diverse people through our communities, right? Especially when we're creating together. Something I think a lot about, though, as a Better World Museum is lasting impact. And so if these creator tools were independent from VR headsets, right? Because so few schools and libraries, museums, and homes have VR headsets, but creator tools can also exist for virtual spaces through mobile devices, PCs, even the TV in people's homes for those who still have a TV, right? Imagine through Xbox, if you can create your world with your teen friends. And we know that you can, for instance, on Rec Room, right? Yeah. Or so creating that accessibility for teens and young people wherever they are, with all tools that we already have. Right?
No, yeah, I mean, I agree, and we're just gonna, I mean, I know I keep going back to AI, but AI is the big thing, and having that available as well for the younger generations to use, and also within the metaverse too, and being able to use that in terms of their own personal experiences, and adjusting their personal experiences and what that looks like. And I think it's just fantastic for them to be able to experience that and be able to use that, so that I mean, as Donald Trump has put into education now that everyone in the, I can't remember the exact age, but there's the age bracket which they said about kids learning AI at a younger age and younger generation. So it's great to hear that and see that, as well as apparently China doing the same thing too. Go ahead, Paige.
Yeah, well, Trump also rolled back DEI, and I'm so in favor of AI, but I'm really in favor of DEI. So when we're meshing them together, right, and fusing them to make sure that the tools that we have, right, through a mobile phone right now, and I don't work for Meta, but through Meta's new app that they just dropped today, right? You can just talk right into it and say, imagine this or that, right? So if you imagine a new metaverse world for you and your friends, using those tools to also create those worlds to be inclusive, GLBT friendly spaces, culturally vibrant, inclusive spaces, doubling down, tripling down on diversity.
Quadruple it down.
That's right.
Thank you so much, Paige, for sharing your thoughts and expressions there. And Brandon, we're going to head over to you now, and we've got a fire question for you, which is, how can immersive experiences help children develop cross-cultural understanding and empathy? This is a very interesting question. I did quite like this question. So what are your thoughts on this, Brandon?
For sure. And I think a lot of the other panelists covered a lot of the empathy and understanding portions of it. And just to highlight my own experience, right? I teach students who, some of them have never even left like a 3 or 4 mile radius of their own neighborhoods. And so to take them to the ocean, or to take them to the mountains, or to space, while they might not feel directly like empathy, they at least know that, their neighborhood isn't the entire world, and that there are other people that might be a little different from them. And so I think there are a lot of experiences, and anybody who seeks to get into education in this space probably builds in, at least in some capacity, some kind of understanding of what they're passionate about, or who they're passionate, who they're working with and such. And so I think just exposure to people who might not be able to see the things in person of what you're building, and just getting them access to your experiences, whether that's through web or headset or whatever it might be, is super important.
What about like the cross-cultural part, like developing cross-cultural? I mean, what do you think? What are your thoughts on that aspect in particular?
That particularly, just using that same example, we have students in Memphis who now know what Swahili is and know how a tomato grows on the top of a mountain in Africa, because we were able to have some farmers who had visited the States come in and visit their school, and they were here for a conference and just talk about, this is where their growing practices. And the students that we're working with are also at an ag school here in the States. And so it was super awesome, one, having to let students know how to navigate. It's 6 o'clock in the morning here and 12 o'clock at night there. So they had to sort of figure out how to navigate that, and then different soil conditions. And again, on top of the fact that a lot of the students they work with spoke Swahili as their main language. And so while they lived different and spoke different languages, they still had the same objectives of just growing food for whatever it is they were trying to get done. And so I think that, again, transcends into everybody's types of experiences. It doesn't have to be growing across the world. It could be just as simple as showing somebody what an experience is that they can't get to themselves. And so, yeah.
That's an interesting example, and thank you for sharing that, Brandon. And yeah, I mean, the all these tools and VR and AI and everything, I think they have great ways in being able to teach culture and teach different aspects, and they each have their own benefits and minuses, and it's just that balance of how do you want to use it, what is your use case, what do you want to use it for, and how can it help the younger generation in particular to learn or to understand cross culture, or to learn about underwater and the issues that are like going on with the planet, for example, and everything. So and Louise, we'll head over to you now, which is, how can the metaverse promote strong connection to nurture? Is it natural? Nature, sorry. Nature and the physical world. I can't even read now today.
Don't worry. Well, I guess my quick response to that, and a slightly flippant response, is, well, we hope so, because otherwise we've made some really bad choices. I think like both Tiff and I kind of got into this, I think, because we're lucky to have had experiences in the physical world that have developed our connection with the planet and nature, and that has really impacted how we interact and move through the world, and the decisions we make, and the things, and the empathy we have for animate and inanimate, living and non-living things. So that was always part of my life growing up as someone hiking, and then I became a geologist, mainly because I thought someone was going to pay me to go camping, and it's really informed my life choices. And then exploring VR and seeing people kind of build spaces and exist in these digital spaces, and get to share these passions and see and interact with these places in a much more tactile way. If you don't get to be lucky enough to live with trees, like it's so profoundly potentially impactful for people who don't have this firsthand. And we know from research that the impact that that nature and outdoors and the color green has on people's well-being and psychology, like I think that this is so important. And just building on what Brandon was saying there, like just exposing people to something that is beyond their everyday example, their everyday experience, be that social, natural, physical, like it just opens up your world. And makes it bigger. And I think that is, to me, one of the most appealing and promising strengths of this technology, is to be able to expose us and take us and transport us to places in really, really, really visceral ways, and build those connections with each other and this place that we live.
I completely agree in terms of, new experiences, virtual experiences. It allows you to connect with nature, not only just touching the grass, so to speak, as you say, but also being able to see what another place would be, or what another place could be. Like, what is it like to be in the middle of a desert? Or what is it like to be in the middle of the ocean, sailing somewhere as a pirate or something? Right?
Yeah, and we're building something that a coral experience, which is looking at coral restoration, and down in the Florida Keys. And like what we can do is we'll give people a picture of play with time, as Tiff always says. We can kind of play with time, and we can say if you do this, we can together as a community, we can achieve these things in the real world. And I think for me, again, it's a tool for us to feel connected with the physical world. I think that we can't forget that we do exist in this tangible space. But if you can kind of go in there and use that as a way to play with physics, to play with time, that gives us a more that makes us not just more empathetic, but that's really good, but also kind of have a pathway to how to act. I just get, sorry, I'm just getting so excited about this. This is what kind of gets me.
So Paige, she's like, yes, I'm on this as well. Yes, Paige.
Paige and I know that we're on the same wavelength about lots of things.
Yes, it's all about actions, measurable actions, and dispelling that inertia.
I love that very quick succinct there. Thank you very much. We're literally running out of time. We've got 3 minutes left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the next question, and I want to get 30 seconds from each of yourselves on this question, and kind of like some just, final thoughts, which is, what psychological effects might virtual interactions have on children's ability to form real life relationships? So we'll try and keep this as short as possible, so we can just get kind of each of your thoughts, and then we'll finish this out. So we'll head over to Tiff first, and then we'll go to Brandon, Paige, Tess, and then Louise, and then we'll finish off the roundtable discussion. So Tiff, 30 seconds, what are your thoughts on the psychological effects that might virtual interactions have on children's ability to form real life relationships?
I think there's definitely effects that we're already seeing with just Zoom and pandemic and masks, right? Kids now don't grow up how we all grew up, and they don't know how to interact in real life. They don't know how to be bored or sit and wait for something. So let's not try to bring it back there, because it's never going to go there, but we can leverage where we're at. And so we can, teach them how to read cues, or we can pair, have everyone gather in a room and then get online together, but they're still in a room together. So we're helping them navigate that kind of border between physical and digital. I think we have to embrace that it's a new world, and we have to bring in some new tools to help kids adapt to that.
Brandon, quickly, your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I think any kind of barriers we introduce is only going to make it harder. Even if I was to turn my camera off now, it'd probably be easier to talk to y'all than it is on camera, and then so on and so forth. And the mannerisms is what does it for a lot of folks. And so when you take that out, especially at a young age, you sort of have everything that comes with that as they get older and not really knowing how to read, like it was mentioned earlier, cues and such. And so I think that's the biggest thing there for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandon. Paige, your thoughts? Oh, you need to unmute your microphone. There we go.
I think ultimately presence, participation, and whether that's parenting or school, just having authenticity, right? That young people will gravitate, trust you.
We've got to be quick, Paige.
Yeah. So creating spaces, as Sultan Sharif from who's leading the MIT Reality Hackathon at AWE always says, once said about creating brave spaces, not safe spaces. The world's not so safe. So facilitating young people to create brave spaces, to be brave in and out of the metaverse, to use their voices, their tools as agents for change.
Okay, Tess, quickly over to you.
Yeah, so I think children need an anchor. They need someone in the physical environment that can help them with the digital environment. I think, as long as VR is a supplement and an addition, not like a surrogate, we don't just stick an iPad in front of their face, or we don't just give them a headset and be like, well, it's just you, it's you and you only, and you're in the digital space and there's no physical touch. Kids still need to go outside. Please send your kids outside. We made an app where we can actually run outside in the headset. We still want kids to be outside and breathe fresh air. So definitely still do that.
Thank you for sharing, Tess. And last but not least, Louise.
Super quick. It really depends on the design. Like, as everybody says, like, I don't think inherently it will have bad psychological effects or good psychological effects. But if we design it right, we can optimize it and make it a great tool to help our help our life in the physical world and enrich our lives.
Well, that's it from this roundtable discussion. Thank you to all the panelists here, and please follow each and every one on the LinkedIn. Obviously, search their name and obviously find them on LinkedIn. Follow them, support them, be a part of the ecosystems, everything that they're doing. Thank you so much, Louise, Tess, Paige, Brandon, and Tiff. And I'm going to hand back over to Christopher now, where some more great roundtables or videos or whatever it may be will be coming up next for you guys. So that's it from me and this roundtable discussion. Christopher, over to you. See you later.